All right, now we're working. Hello again. This is Mike from 24/7 Sports. We are back here in the Tier 4 studio. Brief, very minor technical difficulties. A minor disturbance taken care of. Wi-Fi didn't cooperate with me for some reason, which I don't understand since the router is like 4 feet to my right. Wasn't connecting, but connecting now, so we're all good. Got plenty of time here and plenty of questions that turns out lined up already in the queue here on our message board. And my dog, by the way, making another appearance here, trying to get in. Anyhow, sorry again for the distraction on top of the minor delay. One thing I want to jump into before we even get anywhere, it seems to be topical, we even led with this last week, is the topic of bowl games. And it's very volatile, it's tumultuous this time of year, which is kind of the exciting part of the end of the season, especially with regard to West Virginia, because so many things, so many destinations, so many opponents are still out there, still available. Let's aim for the highest stakes so far. West Virginia can still win the Big 12. Pretty easy formula, not a pretty easy plan to execute, but TCU and Oklahoma State both have to lose. West Virginia has to win Saturday at home against Texas and then go to Norman, Oklahoma and beat the Sooners. The only Big 12 stadium they haven't won in since joining the Big 12, the only team they haven't beaten in the conference since joining in 2012. So again, tall task, but some of it is out of West Virginia's hands because, again, TCU and Oklahoma State both have to lose. Here's where I give you a little bit of optimism. TCU may be without Kenny Hill Saturday. At the very least, he's going to be diminished if it's not certain he'll start. Their offense has really slipped of late. Doesn't appear their running back, Darius Anderson, will play this weekend either. So quarterback, running back, both gone, and going against a high-powered offense at Texas Tech. Could be a lot of points scored in there. Makes sense that you have to have a good quarterback and a good running back to score a lot of points. Will TCU have all of that? Who knows? But certainly that's not a guarantee for for TCU. Oklahoma State has Kansas State and Kansas both at home. Really good break there for Oklahoma State after really and truly some hellacious football lately. Some games against Iowa State and Oklahoma have taken a lot, you would figure, out of the offense, out of the roster. How many more weeks of this up and down, back and forth football can Oklahoma State play and also prevail in? I don't know. Kansas State always plays Oklahoma State tough, too. Bill Snyder has that magic wand. He has a recipe for many teams and many styles, and his team has handled Oklahoma State, not necessarily in the win-loss column, but has kept it close, has even scored higher than average relative to the Wildcats' offenses the past few years against Oklahoma State. So that's not a guarantee either. So, again, the bad news is West Virginia doesn't control its destiny. The good news is nothing's guaranteed for TCU or for Oklahoma State right now either. Again, long season, it takes a toll. The champion obviously avoids the toll that it takes on many other teams, but this will be a test for TCU and Oklahoma State. And, of course, West Virginia, too, if they're to actually prevail from this or at least go 2-0 to end the regular season here. And then from there, it shapes up like this. The Big 12 champion is always going to get one of the 6 big bowls. That's typically the Sugar Bowl, if not Fiesta, Orange, Cotton, Peach, and Rose. Always the Sugar Bowl unless it's a college football playoff bowl. That happens to be the case this year, so one of the other bowls would take the Big 12 champion. And that isn't the case if the Big 12 champion is in the college football playoff. So then the Big 12 champ moves up. The number 2 pick runs into the automatic bowl that would go to whoever wins the Big 12. And then from there it's the Alamo Bowl, Orlando, Texas, Cactus, Liberty Bowl. So that's kind of the order right now. It seems like West Virginia is no worse than the Orlando Bowl, right? But the trouble there is West Virginia was in that game last year. Bowls typically like to prevent rematches, and further complicating that is maybe not the likelihood, but certainly the possibility. NC State would be in that game. Both schools would probably like to avoid a game that would be rerun again next season, the regular season, so much so that oftentimes it's included in the game contract to not play the season before or the season following a regular season game between the two teams. That was the case actually for Virginia Tech and West Virginia this year. They were not to meet in a bowl game last year, which could have been, who knows, the Orlando game was Miami, of course, but different circumstances. It could have been Virginia Tech, and then you see some political things happen there. And truth be told, it's all a bunch of horse trading when it comes to bowl games. Standings don't mean anything apart from who finishes first and who's the runner-up in the Big 12. After that, who sells tickets, who travels. That's why Texas and Iowa State are really wild cards to consider here, especially Texas. So they get to be bowl eligible. Hard for the game in Houston to pass them up. Iowa State will travel like a well-prepared army because it's their first bowl game in quite some time. West Virginia, who knows? Not a bad following, but maybe not as voracious an appetite as those two schools. Let's jump into the questions here. Have a bunch of people watching. Have a bunch of people who've already asked away. First question. After the past few weeks, Dana has made some comments about his frustration with the offense. Do you think if this continues that Spav's seat is heating up? If it continues, sure. I just don't know that it will continue. I think Jake's a pretty smart guy, knows his offense. I think what we probably all overlooked was that this was never going to be simple. Jake learned an offense here. I know when he was gone, he kind of continued what he did, except he tailored it to his offenses and his personnel. At Texas A&M, lots of tight ends, elite receivers. And then at Cal, which had, I think, one H-back and about 17 receivers. So this year it's a bit different. Doesn't have a lot of receivers. Has a wealth of running backs and has one H-back and one traditional tight end. Also important, too, is that while he was gone, the offense here, the Dana offense that he's supposed to know, it really changed, if not in plays and certainly in preferences. I think it's going to take some time, and it's never going to be smooth. They're going to bump things here and there. Kind of if you keep your feet and you keep going forward, that's the good outcome there. Not guaranteed, of course, but can he maybe make the better third down call when it's an obvious 4-down territory situation? That's a big thing. Can he manage the clock better with some calls that Dana would like to see? That'll be a big thing, but those two probably need to communicate those things better. And the fact that it's already happened, once or twice means it shouldn't happen again. If it does continue to happen, then sure, the seat warms up. By no means am I predicting that Jake will be fired, though. Do you think we have underutilized Wellman this year with all the versatility hype from the preseason? I feel like we have wasted him. He's been good doing little things, but I think he should get more touches in short yardage and in the passing game. He's got to be on the field. He was only on the field for 17 snaps last game. I think West Virginia thought they could go over the top against Kansas State. Kansas State took that away. I don't think he was built into the game plan necessarily. He's not a ball carrier. He's not. And is he a receiver? 4 years and minimal touches. That's 4 years of practicing and seeing what he can do. I think his value is in blocking and pass protection and in letting West Virginia swing from one formation to the next without subbing. Being able to dress up one play in 2 or 3 different looks, that's valuable, especially if you can do things to be a 6 offensive lineman or someone who can stick his nose into a blitzing linebacker or a freed up defensive end. Who knows? I don't know what the expectation was for him as far as rushing yards or receiving touchdowns or anything, but if you look at the way the offense produced at the beginning of the year when he was on the field a lot, it certainly helps his advocacy because he was effective. Plans change at the end of the season. Who knows? Is he healthy? Is he as fresh? Has he been having quite as good a year as we thought? Open to interpretation, but what were his expectations? Probably, as far as stats and productivity, not too far from what they are right now. His final question, speaking of Wellman, who do you see as the replacement on the roster or recruiting class? Are we moving away from the H-back to a more traditional tight end? Well, I think they'd like to find somebody like him. The trouble is that they really don't want to commit scholarships to that. I think Dana thinks that they can get that through recruiting, swing guys who may be fullbacks, maybe tight ends that are scholarships, or just having a guy who's going to, play the behind the tackle H-back spot. You really don't see a lot of, quote unquote fullback stuff. They don't play very much in the pistol anymore, at least this year. Nothing in the I formation, rarely in like a single back or an offset where you'd have a fullback to be useful there. One scholarship doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're trying to plug in holes at corner, or if you're trying to plug in holes on the linebackers or whatever, you need that scholarship sometimes. And this is a team that's also committed multiple scholarships now to special teams. They got to come from somewhere. He's kind of on the record that he thinks he can get those fullback bodies to the walk-on program. They have a couple that, they have a chance that they'll develop and they'll get stronger and they can do it. But again, it's not a guy who they really rely on for a bunch of skill or speed or stuff like that on offense. It's someone who can block. And I think what they find is those are probably skills that you could be taught and learn quickly. You don't have to devote a scholarship to that. That's harsh, I know, but that's probably the truth. Moving on, I'm not going to ask that question. This one from M. Burns 40, assuming that everyone can come back next year, Do you think West Virginia should be the favorite to win the Big 12? That's a big assumption. If everybody comes back, I think they should. I think they won't, because Texas and Oklahoma will always gather enough votes. I think you could very easily make a case that if Texas goes, I don't know, 7 wins, 8 wins at the end of the season here, they have a lot coming back. They would be a popular pick for the preseason favorite role. I think you can make a case for West Virginia. If you're asking me, should they? My answer would be no. I just have some questions about what they do lose being important and how they replace it, because you haven't seen a lot of depth exhibited at those spots this year, namely linebacker would be one, and then the offensive line in particular. It's a good question. It's something that I'll probably carry this summer, but my bet would be on Texas, provided they finish well. And Oklahoma's still going to have plenty of talent. They just recruit really well every year. Lots of underclassmen, lots of guys who are in their first or second year on the field. Quarterback be a big one for them, but I think they'll be okay there. Moving on, he says, second question, in your opinion, do you think we run the ball and utilize all of our backs properly? I don't. That's just me. I kind of made a conversation started this week. I don't have a problem with Justin Crawford starting. He's been great, right? Last 2 weeks looks much more like the first 5 weeks. I think he's probably healthy again if there was something wrong. I kind of like the idea of getting Kennedy McCoy more than one touch in the second half. Seems like a good thing to do. He just runs so much more authoritatively, so much more aggressively. I think that it'd be good to, get Crawford going and then really start to kind of apply McCoy in different situations. He's straight line, he finds his gap and he goes, and he got to bring some thunder. And again, I'd ask you this, who's bigger, Justin Crawford or Kennedy McCoy? Based on how they run, you probably assume McCoy. In fact, they are the same size, same height, same weight. They just run differently. So I like giving McCoy the ball and get him warmed up. And that's when I think you could bring Crawford on and he could be more effective. I think to call him a change of pace back sounds like an insult, but I think he could be more effective just kind of using his patience and his vision, running around a defense that's been conditioned to, brace itself for interactions with McCoy. Just my opinion. Probably wrong. His final question, thoughts on this year's basketball team and what areas do we lack this year? Here's one for you, too, that's probably going to make you click the red X in the upper right-hand corner, but oh well. Look at the basketball roster from last year or 2 years ago when this team has been very good. You see a lot of veterans, and you see specific roles that they've aced, to be honest with you, right? Had a rebounder or a defender, whether it was Nate Adrian or if it was John Holton. You had a guy who can come off the bench. You had a guy who can make threes. You had a bunch of different pieces that lined up, and when it was good, it was really good. So now you look at what the roster is this year, and you say, okay, applying the past as the present, future, whatever, how will this team be good? And that doesn't mean, oh my gosh, how are these guys going to be good this year? It means, how are they going to be good? How are they going to play the way they played and succeeded the past few years? And I just have questions. That's my job. That doesn't mean I don't think they can do it. My job is to have and ask questions and then report on my findings. I think if this team gets really good, that makes for good stories. If this team can't conquer some of the question marks, if those question marks turn into exclamation points, which you kind of saw on Friday in Germany at 2 a.m, then that becomes a story too. So what has to happen? Got to find rebounding. They're going to have to find some sort of an inside presence, and they're going to need, maybe even a second shooter, but definitely a third shooter. A lot of people are going to step on Javon Carter's toes. You're going to have to find somebody who can play off of him, and then maybe even somebody who can play off of that guy too. Where is that right now? I don't know. Could it be Harler? Could it be Harler, West, and Carter? Sure, possibly. But that's a question that needs answered. And the other one is they have plenty of time to get this going. I know people want to say the schedule is hard. It's really not. They have one tough game, probably before Virginia, and that's going to be the winner of the Nebraska-UCF game. UCF's very good. UCF would be the favorite in a lot of those Group of 5 conferences. It just happens to be in the American, behind Cincinnati and Wichita State. Those are both, Wichita State's in the American, by the way. Those are both 2 top 15 preseason teams. They're going to be good. UCF's pretty good too. Went deep into the NIT, brings back a first-team all-conference player, 3 starters. If that's the team that they see in Orlando, that's a test for West Virginia right away. Should be 3-1 going there. If not, we should probably have a talk, but how they do in that game will answer some questions. But then after that, you come home and their names, it's not really good teams though. Long Beach State, not great. Virginia, a middle-of-the-pack preseason ACC team. They're replacing a lot of productivity, not unlike West Virginia. Pitt looks terrible. I know it's going to be a rival, but that's a team that's gotten beaten badly twice this season. Really, Kentucky's the great non-conference team. That's much later in the season. They should have a lot more answers and questions by then. But if they're not moving along and getting visibly better in non-conference play before the first Big 12 game against Oklahoma State, I believe that's December 29, they have a week off of school for break here next week, and then you have the time off when the winter break happens. So there's plenty of opportunities to get in the gym and to practice and to watch film and get ready for, to take advantage of opportunities that, aren't there within the confines of the 20-hour week when school is in session. Teams should get better. If it's not happening, then you probably have some answers there. Another one, if you were the AD, what projects do you think should be prioritized as far as facilities go to improve our football and basketball teams? Basketball, parking. I'm always going to be on the fan side there. I think it sucks. I think it's not fair. I think it's a disaster what they do before games. I don't understand why there's an out lane going into the Coliseum. Like, who's leaving? You're going there to go to the game. And they actually have a dedicated lane to go out on to Mom Boulevard, but it's over in the far right corner. And they have two lanes that should be opened up. One comes out normally in customary traffic patterns, and one goes in. I don't understand why it's still out when everybody's going in, right? So make that two one-way points of access. They already have a way out. Let them use that way out. If you're the one person among 14,000 going into the game, going into the Coliseum parking lot, and then turning around and leaving, you can be burdened for the sake of everybody else who's coming into the parking lot to stay. That would be one thing, too. They can improve it. They can make it cheaper. They can make it free. God forbid that happens, right? But I think they could definitely improve parking. That's just something I hear commonly all the time. They could do that for people. They have real estate they could use. They got a baseball field there that they're not even using anymore. Could they turn that into parking? Who knows? If there's going to be real estate when they have some projects that come up and go soon, possibility for sure. Otherwise, I don't know what more you can want. They've taken care of the Coliseum as best they could, have a beautiful practice facility. I think that's okay there. Maybe you want like a skyway so you can walk from the Coliseum to the practice facility and guard your players in the elements. Okay. I don't think they're going to do that, but parking will be my big one. Football, improve the audio, I think, in the stadium. That's going to be really good. I think you're going to see, I think just the way that it's going in general, when you look at college stadiums, why would you add to your stadium right now? You're not filling it, all the time. You can make more money with fewer seats by having, loges or suites or boxes or whatever. Wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years, you see some sort of a construction in that regard. Press box is really good real estate too. Not that they're going to improve the press box, but maybe they move that, they take that area and they make that some sort of a priority seating there. Just my guesses, but definitely fix the audio. I think that's actually coming soon. Otherwise, big projects that would take some time to plan, let alone construct. What is the formula for moving the ball and scoring on Texas, given what you have seen their defense do with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State? You better complete passes that are in your hands. That would be a good one. If you get hit in the hands, you got to catch it because their secondary is pretty tough. Big guys who can run and tackle. Their front is very good. Poona Ford, watch him. He's in the middle. He's a defensive lineman. He's kind of fun to watch unless he's against your team, I suppose. But I don't have a team. I like watching that big guy really create a mess in the defensive line. He really complicates things for offensive linemen. He's very good at that. And then watch Malik Jefferson, a specimen, or just an athlete playing linebacker for them. And that's their middle. So you got to be good at the middle. Any sport, really, right? Point guard, center, second baseman, center fielder, stuff like that. In baseball, basketball, football, the same too. They have a good defense for a reason. They're very good on third down too. They play tight. They man you up. They lock you up. That's a concern for West Virginia. Offense hasn't been very good. My formula, again, catching the ball sounds stupid. I understand that, but you better. They're not going to give you many openings, so you got to get them when they hit you in the hands. But be good on first down. You don't want to be behind the ball. You don't want to be 3rd and 9 against them because they really do shorten the field on third down. So be productive on first down. I think you have to be less predictable. The run pass last week was, I think, close to 3-1. Pass to run, I think, was close to 3-1 on first down. That's kind of predictable. I don't think you want to be predictable against a team that's as athletic or as well coached as Texas. So if you can get some yardage on first down by any means necessary, that helps. But I would try to be good on first down. So you're in 2nd and 6 and 3rd and 2, as opposed to 2nd and 12, 2nd and 10, and then 3rd and 9. Because again, if you're trying to expand their third down space on defense, you're not going to be very successful. Another one, I know it's way too early to know or trust a source, but who do you think stays in Morgantown, and who do you see heading to the draft? Well, I can't chicken out on this one, huh? His options are Greer, Sills, and Jennings. I don't believe Jennings will go. Nothing against him, but I've just never heard that from anybody. I think he's pretty committed to his education, and I think he likes what he does here for the stuff outside of football. And also, boy, he could be a elite receiver next year when he just continues to develop. Look how much he's done this season with his most extended playing time by far. Leads the team in receptions and yardage, but just one touchdown. So there's certain things he could definitely work on in a second year. I think in this expanded role will really help him, because someone's got to replace Karan White next year, and someone might also have to replace David Sills. I don't know that David Sills will go pro. I think it's going to be interesting to see what scouts have to say about him. I don't know why he wouldn't put his name in the draft just to get an evaluation. It may not be a public thing, but I think he's going to submit paperwork and get word back from what he has to do. And then from there, what does he think he is? Does he think that his ceiling is a second or third round guy? And if it comes back that, hey, you're a second or third round pick, then hey, he may go. If it says you're a first round pick, he should go. If it comes back that you might not be drafted, I think he's better than that with another year in college. If it comes back that, hey, you're a fourth or fifth round guy, I think he's better than that potentially if he comes back another year. By the way, they give you three things. Early, drafted, and undrafted is pretty much the classification there. So arm yourself with reports like that. If someone's projected to be a second round pick, don't get that specific of feedback from the NFL. And Greer, that's the wild card. I think the other two will come back. With him, I just don't know. I've seen reports very loosely sourced that he'll come back. The people who I've talked to say it's not even a conversation right now because, by the way, there's a football season with a lot going on. And he still has a lot to do here. At least 3 more games, maybe 4. Who knows? The stakes will be higher. You're going to have a lot of scouts at that game in Oklahoma. People will be watching him on TV. They'll be, focused even longer or even closer, I guess, because now is about the time where scouts really do begin to think about the draft. They've had evaluation in person or evaluation through correspondence with teams, but now is when they really sit down and they start to look at tape and start to talk to people. So, opinions now start to form. So with him, I think it's interesting. It's really in the eye of the beholder. I'm not sure that this year or next year he's a starts the first game guy. So that means maybe he's a middle round pick, a second or a third maybe. But again, it's relative to his expectation. If he thinks he's a first round guy, he's going to make first round money, and he's told that that's not going to happen in April, come back to school. If he thinks he's a third round guy and he's told he's going to be in the third round, go. A lot's involved in the decision. I don't think he's a poor, destitute, downtrodden kid. Seems like he's in a really good situation. He's happy here. He's comfortable with his wife and his kid. So he's not chasing money necessarily. And again, he's not going to hurt himself if he comes back, but I think he could very easily make the case he's not going to hurt himself if he goes pro too. This draft was supposed to be really good on quarterbacks. I don't think that's necessarily the case. And you're going to have, 12, 15 teams maybe looking for a quarterback somewhere. If a lot of teams are looking for a quarterback, that's demand. If the supply is small, supply and demand suggests that you will be a lot higher up than maybe you would be because of the competition amongst teams looking for your services. And that's your economics lesson for today. Speed, intensity, smarts, drive. What makes David Long so damn good? He can't be blocked. I'm working on a story that maybe will explain some of the stuff, but there's something in his blood that helps him a little bit. That's not a PED joke or anything like that, but he's got a genealogy, let's say, that helps him out. Really good student of the game. He finds trends. And, he picks on people. He said that last week against Kansas State, he noticed the linemen were getting tired and lazy, and he used that to bend around people and to make them lean. And if you're leaning against David Long, he's going to go low and he's going to go around you and he's going to make the play. Very good instinctually. And again, I've said this for more than a year now. He does not get blocked, and if he does not get stay blocked. I know that it was a touchdown pass, but go back and watch the trick play, the throwback pass to Kenny Hill against TCU. 4 offensive linemen are camped out, ready to put him on the ground, and he misses a tackle. It's amazing he was even in position to maybe make that tackle. He doesn't get blocked because he's instinctual, he's also athletic, and he's just tough. Next one here. By the law of averages, I think this offense puts 2 halves together this weekend. What say you? It's going to be hard. I would not bet on that necessarily. And they'll have points on the board in both halves. And that's actually a gamble because it hasn't happened the last 2 games. But I just seen what I've seen, and I've seen Texas defense. I think it's going to be much easier said than done. But at home, momentum and a lot of motivation, that should help. In the past, Kansas State would play with safeties, bracketing our wide receivers to take away the deep ball. This year, it looks like they changed their approach, making more with a single safety deep. I don't know about that, actually. I think after the Sills play at the end of the first quarter, they pretty much committed to keeping one guy back, especially when they went with the trips on one side. You can do the bracket coverage when you're going 2x2. Obviously, that's how brackets work, right? But when you're outnumbered 3-on-1 on one side, or when you're outnumbered with 3 receivers on one side, it's hard to do that. West Virginia kind of stuck with that 31 look a little bit. But yes, you're right. In the passive bracket, that's just kind of what they do. If so, why change the approach? Kind of went over that. Question 2, what will be Texas' approach to defending against our offense? Just their MO. They have talent, they have size, they have speed. They're aggressive. Again, they cover you tight, they man you up to take away the space on third down. They're good. They stop the run. They're really good on third down. They're missing a really good cornerback, maybe an all-conference guy. Really just a good Texas team, not unlike what you've seen. Well, think of Houston last year, too. That's his defensive coordinator. If you remember, Houston had a really good defensive tackle. They have one this year. They kind of built stuff around their middle. They're good. They run, they tackle, and make plays. Haven't seen anybody light them up this year. Finally, any inside info on assistants getting extensions? Carrier has done well with receivers, and Belk's crew has gotten better. I feel that continuity is essential at a place like West Virginia. Well, Carrier came back on a 1-year deal and took a pay cut. I imagine that'll get rectified. Belk has a 2-year deal. I doubt that they will touch that. But truth be told, Tony Gibson kind of calls the shots on stuff like that. I think if he wants the defensive guy to get a raise, he probably finds a way to make that happen. Carrier, he's going to have to come back on a new contract because he had a 1-year deal. I think you look at the production by the top 4 this year, bodes well for him. But believe it or not, those 4 receivers are the only receivers who've caught a pass in Big 12 play. I don't know, maybe that's a negotiating ploy when Lions and, well, Carrier actually doesn't have an agent. When they sit down and they talk about these things, perhaps how it goes. But maybe he's due at least some more money because he came back with a pay cut. Carrier and Mark Scott are on 1-year deals. Those are the guys who would be talking. Actually, and Joe Wickline is on the last year of his 2-year deal. 3-year deal. I don't know. 3 guys are at the last year of their deal, and those are those 3 gentlemen there. Wickline, Carrier, Mark Scott. In the room here, Dana Mallory. Dana Mallory? I don't think it's Dana. Dana Mallory, do you think we can ride the momentum from Manhattan back to Morgantown and get the upper hand of the Texas D? Some of these drops are really hurting us in clutch moments. I think you can. I don't know why you can't beat Texas. A lot of people have beat Texas this year. But if you put West Virginia's schedule up against Texas's schedule, you'll find Texas has played some tough teams. You know, maybe they're not too far from being 7-3. They're 5-5. Again, it's good. They have really good players. If you drafted teams, if you're on the playground, you're taking a lot of Texas's guys before you're taking West Virginia's guys, and sometimes that matters. It's a game of one-on-ones. It's a game of matchups, and sometimes the better athlete, the better talent, wins those matchups there. He also asks, I know the Cactus Bowl isn't exactly reaching for the stars, but a matchup against Arizona. Great storyline and all. I am in Arizona now. It's possible, certainly. Rich Rodriguez has reinvented his team by finding another generational quarterback talent on his bench in the middle of the season. I don't know how that happened once or twice, but it's happened the second time now. I think a lot of people will be fighting over Arizona, though. I'm not sure if they slip all the way down. Believe that's the 5th Pac-12 team that gets into, 4th or 5th that gets into the Cactus Bowl. I know the Big 12's arrangements. I don't know the Pac-12s, but it was Arizona State a couple years ago. That was an team, right? That was a 7-5 team coming in, I believe. 7-3 Arizona right now, and has a chance to really put up some big numbers here. Top 7, I think, in total yards and scoring per game. Khalil Tate is going to be someone that a lot of TV stations and a lot of bowl games want to get. There's going to be a fight for that one. I think that'll be enough to propel Arizona to go in many places where Arizona wants to go. I don't think it necessarily is about a Rich Rod West Virginia matchup. I think if it was a dregs of the conference situation, yeah, you could market that one, but you could definitely market Khalil Hill and a really good, fun Arizona offense here. Justin Brown asks, how do you feel about not being in the top 25? I don't care, man. To be honest, you're talking about the college football playoff. I think it's dumb that they have these polls and they trot these suits out to come and talk about it every week. You don't need to tell me that Auburn, Alabama is a big game or that Georgia against Auburn is a big game. I know that. So do you. So do many people. I don't need someone to come into the room on a Tuesday night and say that Clemson is actually the number 2 team in the country despite not being undefeated and losing to Clemson because, well, they play with an injured quarterback. What the heck is that? That's one of the worst of the many bad explanations and defenses that they've had in the several years, and I've been doing this dog and pony show. It's dumb. I don't like it. I understand that Phil's programming, it serves a purpose, and that it gets people talking about the college football playoff. Hey, it works for them. I think it's dumb. I could do without it. And truthfully, if we're really worried about whether NC State and West Virginia should be in the top 25 and why one is in over the other, I get that. College football, college sports are debate. We get it. Not my cup of tea. And again, we're talking about the 23rd, 22nd team in the country not going to get in the top 4 at this time of the year. I just like the fact the polls matter at a certain point in the year. I don't think it matters right now. Maybe at the end of the season, maybe going into the conference championship game, sure. I'm the same way about the AP poll and the coaches poll. I don't even want to see one until conference play starts, and maybe even a couple of weeks into conference play, so it doesn't bother me. But I completely understand the outrage of listening to people defend and explain picks one team over the other and seeing the inconsistencies. In fact, I encourage it. You should make fun of those people all the time on Twitter, on message boards, send emails, make them feel dumb if they look dumb, because maybe they'll stop this nonsense here. Jake Walker asks, do you think Hugs will make adjustments and have the guys ready for a push when conference play starts? It seemed like a lack of intensity, focus, lack of quality, depth, experience in the Texas A&M game. Again, we went over this. They better be. Again, if they lose 4 games in this non-conference schedule, that's an indication this is not a tough schedule here. And it wasn't tough last year, and I thought they got a lot better in non-conference play. And that propelled them to where they ultimately went, which was the Sweet 16, right? I just don't think the non-conference schedule is that tough. I'm sure that we're going to hear otherwise. But, again, Pitt's a great name. UVA is a great name. But those aren't great teams this year. They're going to play some tomato cans here at home. I mean, they'll win by 100 tonight, and they'll win by 100 on Saturday, and everything will be good again. But truth is, they're not going to see anybody good until Orlando. And the way it goes at West Virginia in these preseason tournaments, they never get the competition they think they're going to see. If it's Nebraska there, if Nebraska beats UCF, which isn't impossible, Nebraska's a bottom Big Ten team too. So, there's a chance for them to rack up some wins. So if your goal is to get in the tournament, having a bunch of wins helps. If your goal is to go far in the tournament, you got to get better. And they have a chance to do both, to get better in the non-conference schedule and to, rack up some wins in the non-conference schedule. They're going to have a chance with the breaks in the schedule for classes and everything, and, that'll help it a little bit, I think. I'm repeating myself. I apologize, but it's a good question, I think. I mean, that did not look good Friday. You never see West Virginia loaf like that. You never see a plan B. I think a lot of things came together for them, and it didn't seem right. But, what are your changes, though? Do you bench Dax Miles? I don't think so. Do you bench Konate or Bender? I don't think so. Do you play Logan Rout more? Maybe, but that's not going to solve all your problems. And that's nothing against Logan Rout, but it just means that, there's a lot of things that go wrong in a first game because you couldn't fix everything in the preseason. That's why the schedule is so long. That's why you have non-conference games. You get yourself ready. Big 12 play starts early this year, before New Year's Day. But they have some games, they have some opportunities. And yes, I understand that everything I'm saying about the non-conference schedule not being tough, that does include Kentucky, but that's much later in the schedule. That's not in the pre-New Year's Day. And yes, I know Kentucky's very good, right? That's going to propel the non-conference ranking up a lot higher, but take that one away. Good names, not great teams there. And that's it from me. That's all I have for you. It is 4:19. This was a 34-minute marathon. I had a lot of fun. Hope you did too. We'll do it again next week. Yeah, we will do it again next week. I'll still be in town. But so that's it. That's it for this time. I will see you next time. For 24/7 Sports, I'm Mike Casazza.